When a Human Meets an Ancient God, The Conversation That Changed Everything, Part 4. The chamber began to change. The walls became more solid, more real. Colors became deeper, more vivid. The air itself seemed to thicken with energy. Day-One felt the hair on his arm stand up. "What's happening?" HFY asked, her hand moving toward her weapon again. "I am investing myself in this moment," the Velcro said. Its voice was stronger now, more present. "I am using energy I can never recover. When I leave here, I will be diminished. But this conversation matters. You matter." Day-One felt the weight of those words. A being billions of years old was spending its remaining existence talking to them. The responsibility was staggering. The Velcro's form solidified into something more defined. It looked almost human now, though still strange. Its eyes held galaxies. Its skin seemed to be made of starlight. "I have made a decision," the ancient being said. "A decision I have never made before. I am going to offer you a choice that no other species has received." "Why us?" Day-One asked. "What makes this conversation different?" "You ask me questions," the Velcro said simply. 846 species stood where you stand. Most of them begged for knowledge. Some demanded it. A few tried to worship me, but you asked me why. You asked me about my pain, my loneliness, my purpose. You treated me as a person rather than a god or a resource. HFY looked uncomfortable. "We're just being decent." "Decency is rarer than you think," the Velcros replied. "Especially when facing something that could give you power beyond measure." The being gestured, and 3 objects appeared in the air before them. They looked like crystals, each one glowing with different colored light. One was blue, one was gold, one was silver. "These represent 3 gifts I can give you," the Velcro said. "Gifts I have given to other species when they asked, when they demanded, when they worshipped. I offer them to you now, freely, because I want to see what you will do." Day-One studied the crystals. They were beautiful, mesmerizing. He could feel power radiating from them. "The blue crystal contains knowledge," the Velcros explained. "Touch it, and humanity will receive all the accumulated wisdom of 846 civilizations, technology that would advance you by thousands of years, scientific understanding that would solve your current problems instantly, medical knowledge that would eliminate disease and extend your lives indefinitely, everything you need to build a paradise." The blue crystal pulsed with inviting light. "The gold crystal contains unity," the Velcros continued. "Touch it, and all humans will gain the ability to truly understand each other. No more wars born from misunderstanding. No more hatred from fear of the different. Perfect empathy between all members of your species. Peace forever." The gold crystal glowed warmly, promising an end to all conflict. "The silver crystal contains sight," the Velcros said. "Touch it, and humanity will perceive the universe as I do. You will see the patterns in reality. You will understand your place in the cosmos. You will know your ultimate fate and the fate of all things, true understanding of existence itself." The silver crystal shimmered with otherworldly light. Day-One felt drawn to all of them. Who wouldn't want these gifts? Knowledge to solve every problem. Unity to end all conflict. Understanding to see truth itself. What's the catch? HFY asked, her soldier's instincts warning her. The Velcro smiled sadly. "The catches are built into the gifts themselves. I do not need to add them. They are inherent." "Explain," Day-One said. "Knowledge without the struggle to obtain it has no value," the Velcro said. "The species that chose this gift stopped seeking new knowledge. Why work for answers when you already have them?" Within generations, they lost the ability to think creatively. They maintained what they had been given but created nothing new. When faced with new problems not covered by the gifted knowledge, they had no idea how to solve them. They had forgotten how to learn. Day-One understood. The gift of knowledge steals the ability to discover. "Yes," the Velcros confirmed. "Unity destroys individuality." The species that chose perfect understanding became a collective mind. At first, it seemed wonderful. No conflict, no misunderstanding, but also no disagreement, no debate, no diversity of thought. They became an echo chamber. New ideas require conflict between different perspectives. Without that conflict, they stagnated. They still exist, but they are frozen in time, unable to change or grow. "And sight?" HFY asked. The Velcros' expression became darker. "Sight is the cruelest gift. To see the universe as I do is to understand that nothing matters, that all things end, that the heat death of the universe is inevitable and renders every action meaningless. The species that chose sight went mad. Some destroyed themselves immediately. Others simply stopped doing anything at all. Why build when everything will crumble? Why love when everyone will die? Why try when failure is certain? Day one felt cold. You're offering us poison disguised as gifts. No, the Velcro said firmly. I am offering you gifts that contain poison. Every good thing has a shadow. Every strength can become a weakness. I am not hiding the truth from you. I am showing you reality. These gifts are real. The benefits are real. But so are the costs. Why offer them at all? Hiram demanded. If they destroy species, why keep giving them? The ancient being was quiet for a long moment. Because I want to be proven wrong. I want one species to take a gift and not be destroyed by it. I want to see if wisdom can overcome the inherent poison. I want to know if any species can handle power without being corrupted by it. Day one understood then. None of them refused, did they? Every species you offered these to took one. Every single one, the Velcros confirmed. Some chose knowledge, believing they could handle it wisely. Some chose unity, thinking they could maintain their individuality while sharing consciousness. Some chose sight, confident they could face cosmic truth without breaking. All of them failed. So this is a test, Day one said. Everything is a test, the Velcros replied. Life is a test. Civilization is a test. The question is whether you can see the test for what it is. Hiram looked at Day one. What do we do? Day one studied the three crystals. Blue, gold, silver, knowledge, unity, sight. Each one offering something humanity desperately wanted. Each one carrying a price too high to pay. He thought about the Vestani who achieved paradise and died in it. He thought about the Drenok who transcended flesh and lost their purpose. He thought about all 731 species that failed. What did they have in common? They all accepted something from outside themselves. They all took the easy path. I need to know something, Day one said. The species that survived, the 116, did any of them receive gifts from you? The Velcros shook its head slowly. No, they survived on their own. But they also changed beyond recognition. They are alive but unrecognizable. Because they had to adapt without help, Day one said. They had to become something else to survive. Yes, Day one looked at Hiram. She met his eyes. He saw trust there, trust in his judgment. He turned back to the Velcros and the three glowing crystals. We choose none of them, he said. The chamber went absolutely silent. The Velcros froze, its form becoming perfectly still. None, it whispered. None, Day one confirmed. We appreciate the offer. We understand the gifts are real. But we choose to remain as we are. Ignorant, divided, blind to cosmic truth. We choose to keep struggling. We choose to stay human. Why? The Velcros asked, and Day one heard genuine wonder in its voice. Because the struggle is what makes us who we are, Day one said. Take that away and we're not human anymore. We might be something better, something more advanced. But we won't be us. And I'm not ready to give up on who we are. Hiram nodded. We'll solve our problems ourselves. Or we won't. Either way, it will be our choice. The Velcro stared at them for a long moment. Then slowly it began to laugh. Not mockery, but genuine, joyful laughter. The three crystals vanished. 847, the Velcro said. 847 species. And you are the first to refuse. When a human meets an ancient god, the conversation that changed everything. Part 3 time became strange inside the chamber. Day one had no idea if minutes or hours had passed. The Velcro seemed to exist outside normal time, and being near it made his sense of duration blur. Hiram checked her chronometer several times, frowning at the readings. Outside, aboard the horizon's edge, Taeyang paced the bridge. His crew monitored the ancient structure nervously. Ji-Wan, the ship's xenoanthropologist, studied the energy readings coming from the chamber. Captain, Ji-Wan said quietly, the structure is emitting patterns I've never seen before. It's almost like it's communicating with itself. Or mourning. Mourning? Taeyang stopped pacing. Mourning what? Ji-Wan shook her head. I don't know. But whatever is happening in there, it's significant. The energy levels keep fluctuating with emotion. Inside the chamber, the Velcros had begun to show Daewon and Hiram more visions. Not just images this time, but experiences. Daewon felt what it was like to be the last member of a dying species. He felt the despair of the Kreenar as they realized their children no longer cared about anything. He felt the confusion of the Drenok as they lost their ability to understand physical existence. Do you feel it? The Velcros asked. This is what awaits you. This is the pattern. Knowledge destroys wonder. Achievement destroys drive. Peace destroys the need to evolve. Daewon pulled himself free from the visions, breathing hard. That's not knowledge. That's just one possible outcome. It is the outcome I have witnessed 731 times. The Velcros replied. How many times must a pattern repeat before it becomes law? Humans have a saying, Hiram interjected. She had been quiet for a while, processing everything she had seen. The past doesn't predict the future. Every situation is different, is it? The Velcros moved through the chamber, its form flowing like liquid light. Let me show you what I see when I look at humanity. You are currently in a golden age. You have peace among most of your worlds. Technology is advancing. Art flourishes. You are happy. This is when species become vulnerable. Vulnerable to what? Daewon asked. To comfort, to complacency, to the belief that you have solved all your important problems. The Velcros gestured and new images appeared. Images of human colonies, thriving cities, advanced technology. Your species is 2 or 3 generations away from the critical point. The point where your children will not remember struggle. They will grow up in abundance and peace. They will not understand sacrifice because they have never needed to sacrifice. Daewon studied the images. He saw happy people, advanced societies, utopian cities. It looked wonderful. It looked like everything humanity had worked toward for centuries. What's wrong with that? He asked. Isn't peace and prosperity what we should want? Of course it is, the Velcros said. But it is also poison. The Vestani wanted peace and prosperity. They achieved it. 3 generations later, no one could remember why they had built anything. They maintained their paradise but created nothing new. Slowly, systems began to fail. No one knew how to fix them anymore. Within a century, they were gone. Hiram stepped forward. You're saying suffering is necessary? That we need struggle to survive? I am saying that easy lives create soft people, the Velcros replied. And soft people cannot handle hard times. This is not my opinion. This is observation across billions of years. Daewon shook his head. But humans are already planning for that. We teach history. We simulate crisis scenarios. We train our people to handle emergencies. We know the danger of forgetting our past. The Kreenar did all of those things, the Velcro said. They created elaborate simulations of hardship for their children. But simulations are not reality. Their children went through the training, but they did not internalize the lessons. How could they? They knew it was not real. They knew safety waited at the end of every exercise. The ancient being moved closer to Daewon. You cannot preserve the mentality of hardship in times of ease. This is the fundamental problem. Species need challenge to grow, but too much challenge destroys them. The balance is impossible to maintain. No, it isn't, Daewon said firmly. Humans have maintained that balance before. During the Reconstruction era after the Third War, we could have chosen easy solutions. We could have used authoritarian control to force peace. Instead, we chose the harder path of democracy and freedom, even though it meant more conflict and slower progress. We chose difficulty on purpose. For how long? The Velcros challenged. 1 generation, 2? Can you maintain that choice for 1,000 years? 10,000? I don't know, Daewon admitted. But I don't need to know. I just need to make the right choice today. The next generation will make their choice tomorrow. That's how humans work. We don't plan for 10,000 years. We plan for now, and we trust future humans to figure out their own problems. The Velcros was silent for a moment. That is incredibly short-sighted. Maybe, Daewon said, but it's also incredibly freeing. We don't carry the weight of the entire future. We just carry our part of it. Hiram had been thinking. You said knowledge destroys wonder. But that's not true for humans. The more we learn about the universe, the more we want to know. Every answer creates new questions. We've been studying physics for centuries, and we're more excited about it now than we were at the beginning. Because you are still young, the Velcro said. Wait until you truly understand. Wait until you map every star, decode every mystery, answer every question. What will drive you then? New questions, Hiram said simply. The universe is infinite. There will always be new questions. The universe is not infinite, the Velcros corrected. It is vast, but it has limits. I have seen those limits. I have existed long enough to watch the universe repeat itself. There are only so many types of stars, so many types of worlds, so many ways matter can arrange itself. Eventually, you will see the patterns. Everything will become predictable. Daewon laughed. Actually laughed. The Velcros looked at him with what might have been confusion. What amuses you? You've existed for 3 billion years, Daewon said, and you still don't understand the most basic thing about humans. We don't need new things to stay interested. We can find wonder in the same things over and over. Humans watch the same sunsets every day and still find them beautiful. We listen to the same songs hundreds of times. We tell the same stories to our children that our parents told us. Repetition doesn't bore us. It comforts us. That is not progress, the Velcro said. No, Daewon agreed. It's living. Progress is important, but it's not everything. Sometimes we want to sit and enjoy what we have instead of always reaching for more. The ancient being seemed to consider this. Its form flickered through several shapes before settling back into something almost human. The Molotov said something similar. It said quietly. They believed in balance between progress and preservation. They are gone now. How did they die? Hiram asked. They didn't die, the Velcro said. They transcended. They became beings of pure energy, seeking to preserve themselves forever. In doing so, they lost everything that made them worth preserving. I spoke with them after their transcendence. They did not remember why they had chosen to change. They simply existed, aware but empty. Daewon felt a chill. Is that what you want to prevent? Species losing themselves. I want to prevent the waste, the Velcro said, and for the first time Daewon heard real pain in its voice. So much potential, so much beauty. Every species is unique. Every civilization creates wonders, and then they are gone. Lost to time, to hubris, to their own success. I am tired of watching it happen. Then help us, Daewon said. Don't just watch. Help us avoid the mistakes others made. The Velcros looked at him with those ancient eyes. I cannot. To help you would be to change you. And the moment I change you, you are no longer yourselves. You become my creation instead of your own. Every species I helped failed faster than those I simply observed. Hiram understood. Because they started relying on you instead of themselves. Yes, the Velcro said. The gift of aid is also the poison of dependency. When a human meets an ancient god, the conversation that changed everything. Part 2. The Velcro stared at Daewon for a long moment. The chamber around them seemed to pulse with light, as if the ancient structure itself was reacting to his words. Hiram stood tense, her weapon still in hand, ready for anything. Explain, the Velcro said finally. Its voice carried genuine curiosity. 846 species have stood where you stand now. All of them told me what made them special, what made them worthy. You are the first to say nothing makes you special at all. Daewon took a breath. He had prepared for many possible scenarios when he became a first contact specialist. Meeting a 3-billion-year-old being was not one of them. But he knew one thing. Honesty was his only option here. Every species thinks they're special, Daewon said. We're no different. We tell ourselves stories about human resilience, human creativity, human spirit. But the truth is simpler. We're not special. We're just stubborn. The ancient being shifted its form slightly. Stubborn. We don't know when to quit, Daewon continued. We've nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. Wars, plagues, environmental collapse. We've stared extinction in the face over and over. Each time the logical thing would be to give up. To accept the end. But we don't, we can't, we just keep going. Hiram glanced at Daewon but remained silent. She was learning to trust his approach even when it seemed crazy. The Velcros moved closer. Its form rippled like water. I have heard similar words before. The Kreenar said they survived through persistence. They are extinct now. The Molotov spoke of endurance beyond reason. They transcended physical form and forgot what they were. Words are easy, Daewon. Survival is hard. Then why ask us? Daewon challenged. If you've heard it all before, why bring us here? The chamber grew brighter. The Velcro seemed to expand, becoming less human-like and more abstract. Geometric patterns of light and shadow danced across its surface. Because I want to be wrong, the ancient being said. And for the first time, Daewon heard emotion in its voice. I want one species, just one, to prove that youth and ignorance are not synonymous with inevitable failure. Do you know what it is like to watch the same story repeat for billions of years? Birth, growth, hubris, collapse. Over and over. I am tired, humans. I am so very tired. Hiram lowered her weapon completely. You're not a god, she said quietly. You're just old. And lonely. The Velcros contracted back into its more human form. Gods are made by those who worship them. I have been called a god by hundreds of civilizations. But you are correct. I am not divine. I am merely something that has lived too long to die easily. Daewon felt a strange kinship with this ancient being. What happened to the other species? The 731 that failed? The Velcros gestured and the chamber changed. Images appeared in the air around them. Daewon saw worlds he couldn't name, species he couldn't identify, civilizations that had risen to heights humanity couldn't imagine. The Vestani achieved perfect technology, the Velcro said. They solved every problem, cured every disease, eliminated all suffering. Within 3 generations, they lost the will to create anything new. They simply maintained what they had built until, eventually, they forgot how to maintain it. They died in paradise. Another image appeared. Beings of pure energy, beautiful and terrible. The Drenok transcended physical form. They became beings of thought and energy. They believed they had achieved the ultimate evolution. But without bodies, they lost context. They lost meaning. They drifted apart until they were nothing but scattered consciousness, aware but unable to act or care. More images, more stories. Each one a tragedy. The Korvesh destroyed themselves in war. The Plenta were conquered by their own artificial intelligences. The Sankor simply gave up when they learned how vast and uncaring the universe truly was. So many paths, all leading to the same end. The images faded. Daewon felt the weight of all that loss, all that failure. But some survived, you said. 116 species. They survived, the Velcros agreed. But they are not what they were. They changed so much to endure that nothing of their original nature remains. They won survival by losing themselves. I do not count that as success. Hirim spoke up. Why do you care? If you're dying anyway, why does it matter what happens to us or any other species? The ancient being was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke, its voice was softer. Because I need to know if there was a point. I have existed for so long that the universe itself has changed around me. Stars have been born and died. Galaxies have collided and merged. I have seen wonders beyond counting. But I have also seen the pattern. Young species rise with such hope, such energy, and they fall. Always they fall. If every species is doomed to fail or lose itself, then what was the point of any of it? What was the point of me watching? Daewon understood then. This being wasn't testing them. It was asking for help, for meaning. You want us to give you a reason to believe, Daewon said. Yes, the Velcros admitted. I suppose I do. Is that too much to ask of creatures who have existed for the blink of an eye? Daewon smiled slightly. Maybe. But humans are good at doing things that are too much to ask. It's kind of our specialty. Then tell me, the Velcro said, its form shifting with intensity. Why do you think humanity will be different? Not because you are special. You have already said you are not. But why will you not follow the same path as all the others? Daewon thought about Earth, about the wars and the peace that followed, about the climate disasters and the global cooperation that saved billions, about the plague years when every nation shared resources freely, about the AI crisis when humanity almost lost control but chose to pull back from the brink. Because we've already failed, Daewon said, multiple times. We know what failure looks like. We know what it costs. Every generation learns the stories of how we almost ended. We teach them in schools. We make them into entertainment. We never let ourselves forget. And this prevents you from failing again. No, Daewon admitted. We'll probably fail again. Maybe many times. But we know we can survive failure. We've done it before. That's different from species who achieved greatness without ever really struggling. When they faced their first real crisis, they didn't know how to handle it. We know how to handle crisis. We live in crisis. The Velcros considered this. The Kreenar also survived many disasters before I met them. They still failed in the end. Maybe they did, Daewon said. But we're not them. We don't claim to be special or chosen or destined for greatness. We're just humans. We make mistakes. We fight, we argue. We disagree on everything. But when we really need to, we work together. Not because we're noble, but because we're practical. We survive because we're too stubborn to die and too scared to stop trying. Hirim added her voice. I'm a soldier. I've seen people do impossible things because they refused to accept that something was impossible. I've seen civilians hold together entire cities during disasters because giving up wasn't an option. Humans don't need to be special. We just need to be too dumb to know when we're beaten. The Velcros made a sound that might have been a laugh. Too dumb to know when you are beaten? That is not what I expected to hear. Did any of the other species make you laugh? Daewon asked. The ancient being paused. No, they did not. Then maybe we are a little different after all. When a human meets an ancient god, the conversation that changed everything. Part 1. The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the horizon's edge. Daewon stood near the main viewport, watching the swirling clouds of the Obsidian Nebula twist and turn like living things. He had seen many strange sights in his years as a diplomat, but this nebula felt different. It felt old. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, said Tae-Yang, the ship's captain. His voice carried concern. It's coming from inside the nebula. Daewon turned away from the viewport. Play it. The bridge speakers crackled to life. What came through made everyone freeze. The voice spoke in perfect Korean, then shifted smoothly to English, then to languages Daewon didn't even recognize. But somehow he understood every word. I am the last witness. I have waited for you. Come to me, Daewon of Earth. Come alone, but bring one other if you must. I have coordinates for you. I have questions for you. I have been watching. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Hirim, the ship's tactical officer, was the first to speak. This is a trap. It has to be. Daewon studied the data that appeared on the screens. Coordinates. Deep inside the nebula, in a region that showed nothing on their charts. Nothing at all. How does it know your name? Tae-Yang asked. That was the question, wasn't it? Daewon had been on dozens of first contact missions. None of them started like this. Usually there were years of observation, careful approach protocols, teams of scientists analyzing every detail. This was different. This was direct, personal. I don't know, Daewon admitted, but I'm going to find out. Hirim stepped forward. Her hand rested on the weapon at her side. She was a soldier, trained to see threats everywhere. Sir, with respect, this is insane. We know nothing about what sent that message. It could be hostile. It could be studying us to find our weaknesses. It could also be the most important discovery in human history, Daewon said calmly. The voice spoke dozens of languages. It knew my name. It's been watching us. That means intelligence far beyond what we've encountered before. Exactly my point, Hirim said. Something that powerful could destroy us without effort. Daewon smiled slightly. Then it wouldn't need to lure us into a trap. It would just do it. Tae-Yang looked between them. What are your orders? Daewon made his decision. Plot a course to those coordinates. Hirim, you're with me. We'll take the shuttle. I'm noting my objection in the log, Hirim said flatly. Noted and appreciated, Daewon replied. But we're still going. The shuttle journey through the nebula took 3 hours. Hirim piloted in tense silence while Daewon reviewed everything they knew about the region, which was almost nothing. The Obsidian Nebula was old, formed billions of years ago. Few ships came here. There was nothing worth finding, or so everyone thought. Sir, Hirim said suddenly, sensors are picking up something. It's massive. Daewon looked at the readings and felt his breath catch. The structure ahead of them was enormous. It stretched for kilometers in every direction, made of materials that their scanners couldn't identify. The surface seemed to shimmer and shift as if it wasn't quite solid, or wasn't quite real. How old is it? Daewon asked. Hirim worked the controls. She went silent. Then she checked again. Sir, the computer says it's older than Earth. Older than our sun. It's estimating 3 billion years. Maybe more. 3 billion years. Humanity had only been in space for a few centuries. This thing had been here since before complex life existed on Earth. I'm detecting an opening, Hirim said. It's large enough for the shuttle. Take us in. Sir, take us in, Hirim. That's an order. The shuttle slipped through the opening into a vast chamber. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. As soon as they entered, the opening sealed behind them. Hirim's hand went to her weapon immediately. Breathable atmosphere, she reported, her voice tight. Temperature is comfortable. Gravity is Earth normal. That's not possible. This structure shouldn't be generating gravity. A lot of things about this shouldn't be possible, Daewon said. He stood and moved to the shuttle door. Let's meet our host. They stepped out into the chamber. The floor was smooth beneath their feet, but it felt warm, alive almost. The space around them was huge, but somehow it didn't feel empty. It felt like they were being watched. Welcome. The voice came from everywhere at once. It was the same voice from the transmission, but stronger now, more present. I am pleased you came, Day One. And you, Hiram. Yes, I know you too. I know all of your crew. I have been watching your species for 200 of your years. Show yourself, Hiram demanded, her weapon drawn now. Your weapon cannot harm me, the voice said. There was no threat in the words, just fact. But I understand your fear. I will take a form you can comprehend. The air in front of them began to shift. Light bent and twisted. Something was forming. It hurt to look at directly, as if Day One's eyes couldn't quite focus on it. Then, slowly, the shape became clearer. It looked almost human. Almost. The proportions were slightly wrong. The eyes held too much depth, as if they could see through time itself. The form kept shifting subtly, never quite settling into one appearance. I am called many things, the being said. Velcros is the name I wore longest. I am old, humans. Older than your world. I have watched civilizations rise and fall like waves on a shore. I have seen species reach for the stars and burn out like candles. I have witnessed the birth and death of gods. Day One found his voice. Why contact us? Why now? The Velcros tilted its head in a gesture that was eerily human. Because I am dying. Not in the way you understand death, but fading from this reality. Before I go, I wanted to speak with you. With humanity. You are the 847th species I have contacted at your stage of development. What happened to the others? Day One asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. The Velcros was quiet for a long moment. 731 of them are gone. Extinct, transcended, or simply lost to time. I want to know if you will be different. I want to understand why young species fail. And I want to know if you, small and brief as you are, might have an answer I haven't heard before. Hiram's weapon lowered slightly. You're lonely, she said, surprise in her voice. The ancient being looked at her. Yes, I suppose I am. Now, Day One of Earth. Let me ask you the question I have asked 846 times before. What makes your species special? Why should humanity survive when so many others have not? Day One met the gaze of something older than stars. He thought about lying, about grand speeches about human exceptionalism. But looking into those ancient eyes, he knew lies would be pointless. Nothing, he said finally. Nothing makes us special. We're just another species trying to survive in a universe that doesn't care, and that's exactly the point. For the first time in billions of years, the Velcros looked surprised. When a human meets an ancient god, the conversation that changed everything, Part 5. The chamber began to fade around them. The solid walls became transparent again, revealing the vast darkness of space beyond. The Velcro's form grew brighter, more intense, as if it was burning through its remaining energy. You have given me something I thought impossible, the ancient being said. Its voice was softer now, gentle. You have given me hope. Day One felt exhausted, but also strangely at peace. Because we refused your gifts? Because you understood that some gifts are curses, the Velcros replied. Because you valued what you are more than what you could become. Because you chose difficulty over ease when ease was freely offered. In 3 billion years, I have never seen that. Hiram lowered herself to sit on the floor. The adrenaline was leaving her system, and she suddenly felt how tired she was. What happens now? The Velcros moved to the center of the chamber. Its form began to shift more rapidly, cycling through shapes and patterns that hurt to look at directly. I told you I was dying, it said. This is true. I am fading from this dimension. Soon I will be gone completely. How soon? Day One asked. Soon enough that this conversation is likely my last, the Velcro said. I have been preparing to leave for 1,000 years. I have said goodbye to old friends. I have visited places that mattered to me, but I delayed, because I wanted to give the universe one more chance. I wanted to meet one more species and see if anything had changed. And now? Hiram asked. The ancient being looked at her. Now I can go in peace, because something has changed. You changed it, Day One shook his head. We didn't do anything special. We just refused to take what we didn't earn. Exactly, the Velcro said. That is what makes it special. Do you understand? 846 civilizations failed because they could not resist temptation. They saw power and they took it regardless of the cost. You saw power and said no. That simple refusal proves that young species can make wise choices. that they are not doomed to repeat the same mistakes forever. The chamber's walls began to dissolve completely. Stars became visible in all directions. It was like standing in open space, though the floor remained solid beneath their feet. "I need to tell you something before I go," the Velcro said. "A truth I have not shared with anyone in millions of years." Daewon and Hiram waited. "I was not always alone," the ancient being continued. "There were others like me, beings who had lived long enough to watch civilizations rise and fall. We were a community once. We shared our observations. We debated the meaning of existence. We tried to understand why young species always seemed to fail." "What happened to them?" Daewon asked. "They gave up," the Velcro said simply. "One by one they lost interest. They saw the pattern repeat too many times. They concluded that nothing mattered, that all effort was wasted, that the universe was fundamentally meaningless. They faded away not because they died, but because they stopped caring enough to exist." "But you didn't," Hiram observed. "No," the Velcro agreed. "I could not let go. I kept hoping that one species, just one, would do something different. Something that would prove my friends wrong. Something that would show that existence has meaning beyond simple repetition." "And we did that?" Daewon asked. "By refusing your gifts?" The ancient being's form stabilized into something that looked almost peaceful. "You did more than that. You showed me that wisdom can exist without age. That strength can mean choosing not to use power. That the newest species can teach the oldest. You gave meaning to my entire existence. If I witnessed nothing else but this conversation, it would have been worth existing for 3 billion years." Daewon felt the weight of those words. He wanted to say something profound, but nothing seemed adequate. "What will you do now?" he asked instead. "I will fade," the Velcro said. "I will return to whatever exists beyond existence. But I will go knowing that I was wrong. Wrong about young species being doomed. Wrong about the universe being meaningless. Wrong about hope being foolish. You taught me that, Daewon. You and Hiram and all of humanity. You taught an ancient being something new." The Velcros began to glow brighter. Its form became less distinct, more abstract. "I want to leave you with something," it said. "Not a gift in the way the crystals were gifts. Not power or knowledge or sight. Just words. A message." "We're listening," Hiram said. The Velcros' voice filled the chamber, filled the space around them, filled the universe itself. "Continue. Continue being stubborn. Continue being flawed. Continue making mistakes and learning from them. Continue arguing with each other and then working together when it matters. Continue being human in all the messy, difficult, beautiful ways that means. And most importantly, continue to surprise the universe. Make us all wrong about you." The light became blinding. Daewon had to shield his eyes. When he looked again, the Velcros was almost gone. Just a shimmer in the air, a last echo of something that had existed longer than planets. "Will we ever see you again?" Daewon called out. "No," came the fading voice. "But you will remember. And that is enough. Goodbye, humans. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for teaching me that old gods can still learn. Thank you for being exactly what you are." And then it was gone. The chamber was empty. The structure around them began to crumble, not violently but gently, like it had served its purpose and could rest now. "We need to go," Hiram said, standing quickly. "Now." They ran for the shuttle. Behind them, the ancient structure dissolved into light and shadow. They barely made it through the opening before it sealed completely. As Hiram piloted away, Daewon watched the massive structure collapse in on itself, folding through dimensions that didn't have names. The horizon's edge appeared on their sensors. Taeyang was hailing them frantically. "We're okay," Daewon transmitted. "We're coming home. What happened in there?" Taeyang demanded. "The structure just started falling apart. We thought you were dead." Daewon looked at Hiram. She gave a small shrug. How could they explain what had happened? How could they describe a conversation with something 3 billion years old? "We'll tell you when we get back," Daewon said. "It's a long story." Back on the ship, Jiwon met them in the docking bay. "The structure is completely gone," she reported. "It's like it never existed. All that remains is debris that's breaking down into subatomic particles." "It served its purpose," Hiram said quietly. "Which was what?" Taeyang asked. Daewon thought about that. "To give an old being peace, and to remind us that being human is enough." In the weeks that followed, Daewon filed his report. He included everything: holding nothing back. The story spread through human space like wildfire. Not the technical details, but the core message. Humanity had met something ancient and powerful. It had offered gifts beyond measure, and humanity had said no. Other species in the galaxy heard the story too. Reactions were mixed. Some thought humans were fools to refuse such power. Others were impressed by the restraint. A few, the older species, understood what had really happened. Humanity had been tested, not for strength or intelligence or worthiness, but for wisdom, for the ability to know when more power was actually less freedom, for the courage to stay small when growth was offered, and humanity had passed. 3 months later, Daewon stood in his apartment on Earth, looking out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, fighting, loving, arguing, creating, destroying, building, being human in all its chaotic glory. His communication device chimed. It was HFY. Did you see the news? She asked. Which news? 5 more first contact teams have reported similar encounters. Not with the Velcros, but with other ancient beings. They're all coming forward now, all asking us questions, all curious about the species that refuse godhood. Daewon smiled. Let them be curious. Maybe we'll teach them something too. You know what I think? HFY said. What? I think the Velcros told its friends before it faded. I think it spread the word. The humans refused. The humans chose to stay themselves. The humans proved us wrong. Daewon thought about that. An ancient being using its last moments to talk about humanity, to share hope with others who had lost it. Maybe, he said. Or maybe the universe is just paying attention now. Maybe we did change everything, just not in the way we expected. By refusing to change it all, HFY said. Exactly. Daewon ended the call and returned to the window. Below, the city pulsed with life. Imperfect, chaotic, struggling, thriving life. Human life. Somewhere in the cosmos, ancient beings were watching, wondering if this young species would survive. Hoping they would. Waiting to see what humans would do next. And humanity? Humanity just kept going, making mistakes, learning lessons, fighting battles, building futures, being too stubborn to quit, too curious to stop asking questions, too human to become anything else. The conversation with the Velcros had changed everything, but not because humanity gained power. It changed everything because humanity proved that wisdom doesn't require age, that strength can mean restraint, that sometimes the bravest thing is to refuse transformation and stay exactly who you are. In the end, that was the message that spread across the galaxy. Not that humans were special, not that they were chosen or destined,